Good afternoon and welcome to today's advisory design panel. My name is Carlos Varse. I'm not the chair because John Chapman's running a little bit behind, but want to welcome everyone to the Squamish Nation traditional territory. The first item is that we adopt the agenda. So the recommendation is that the September 18th, 2025 advisory design panel agenda be adopted. Can I get a first for Sarah, second for... I wrote your name down because we just talked about how I can't remember names. Andrew, thank you very much. Anyone opposed? Nope. Wonderful. That carries. Second item is to adopt the minutes from July 17th. And I'll get someone to move that. Going once, going twice. There we go. Once again, and seconded from, hopefully Sarah can pop her hand up there for you. There we are. Wonderful. All right. Excellent. All in favor, no opposed. Wonderful. Adopted. And an exciting advisory design panel today, and I actually mean that. And we'll go to the first item, which is 1091 Transit Place, previously on Queensway. And Asia, please take it away.
Start. Good afternoon, advisory design panel members. My name's Asia Philp. I'm a planner with the district. I'm not going to spend heaps of time presenting today. I'm just going to say that the project kind of speaks for itself. It's located in the business park. Staff's review found that it met the design guidelines, notwithstanding that the applicants are working on revising their solid waste site to meet our design guidelines. And other than that, it met all of the guidelines from staff's review. So I will invite carbon engineering folks to come and have seats up here. And let's just see. This mic is on.
Okay.
This, you can advance the slides there or by pressing the arrow key. If this doesn't show up, this is what everybody sees.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Toby Stedham. I'm General Manager at Carbon Engineering. Just like to start by gratefully and respectfully acknowledging that Carbon Engineering operates on the traditional ancestral and unceded territories of the Squamish Nation. I'm just going to speak for a minute or so just on Carbon Engineering, and then I'll hand over to Matthew to speak on the architectural design. If you could.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
To the next slide. Thanks. So Carbon Engineering is now over 185 innovators, 2/3 of which are based here in Squamish. In July 2024, we purchased the 4.5 acre site previously on Queensway, now Transitway. And the goal for that site is to add a technology development facility that when constructed and complete, will more than double our technology development space that we have available here in Squamish for continuing to further our direct air capture technology for capturing carbon dioxide, and demonstrate our long-term commitment to Squamish and being an active member of the community here. So I'll hand over to Matthew to move on to the architectural element. Thank you.
Sure thing. So thank you, Toby. Matthew Emerson, I'm an architect at ABC. So presenting on behalf of the project. Warren is with Connect Landscape Architects. We are the architect and landscape architects on the project. From a project standpoint, we've been engaged for about a year with Carbon Engineering. We've been very fortunate to work with the group that is very motivated to make this project a reality for the city of Squamish and for their business and for the planet and the work that they're doing, research work that they're doing. Project statistics, I won't go over the entire thing. I think you're aware of the application unless you'd like me to go into further details. But we've met all of the requirements. Part of the mandate was to kind of go right where we need to and meet all the bylaws without variance or without changes because of the importance of moving this project forward with some speed. It is in the industrial area, but that we have recognized kind of where it is in the city as well as its neighboring properties and some of the architecture that's around that area. It is bordering to the rail yard. There's aspects within flood control areas. And so we've respected all of those with setbacks, made sure that the height of the site is going to meet all of the requirements. And then started to take some, as we're going through the design aspects of the project, which is pretty interesting from a unique opportunity for us. There's laboratory work, there's technology development within this larger warehouse-like space on the west side of the site, and then there's office space and a lot of people that will be coming to and from this site every day. This is going to be their experience of working for Carbon Engineering. So it was a unique opportunity to kind of bring those three types of use together. Design drivers looking around and finding architectural inspiration from the mountains, from the chief and Garibaldi, and making sure that the orientation of the building takes advantage of those views for the people who are going to be working there, and putting public spaces within the building. I say public, I mean shared spaces within the building, have opportunities to view those places for places of gathering, which presently the company can't all come together in one place and kind of celebrate milestones or have presentations, etc. We also looked at the property just to the south, the Leon Levin East site, and kind of wanted to make sure we were being good neighbors without being copycats of that architecture. But found that it's a great project, and that as a pairing they should look quite good together. Site access. We have two site accesses, and it's very important, given the work that the company is doing, to separate what you'd call pedestrian or standard vehicular flow from the work of any deliveries or tech dev work that they're doing for the purposes of safety. Right now, there's a lot of moving parts on their sites, right? And safety is of utmost importance to them and supporting their people. So having these two separate accesses was actually a very good advantage to reducing traffic flow in and out, but also increasing safety. So you see to the north, there's an access point for deliveries and logistics aspects, and to the south is vehicular as well as fire truck access. Parking wise, we've met all the criteria of parking on site, both within the building. There are shower facilities and change facilities, etc., and then also on site for Class B parking. And here we are. Looking through the floor plans, as I said, it has three different uses. The entry and the ground floor is largely laboratory space on the east. If you see in all the blue, they are developing new processes within there, testing samples, etc. So there's a laboratory use, as well as some seminar space and some greeting spaces for people. On the west side is the technology development program, which is a large 3-story open space where new technologies are being tested and prototyped and all of these kinds of things. So the active flow between the two spaces was part of the importance of the design, and as well as we move up to the upper floors, the interconnectivity between different floors, so that people that are in different departments, say, don't feel that they're siloed, that the technology development people are not connected to the engineers, or the engineers are not connected to the scientists. So that central area provides a gathering node space. And as I said before, has views to the north and south to the Chief and to Garibaldi. Building envelope wise and appearance wise, we followed a pretty strict rhythm of panelization, open and closed, both to achieve our environmental requirements of window to wall ratios, as well from a constructability standpoint, working closely with the builder on fast tracking through envelope installation with regularized modules and systems that could be prefabricated and brought to site more quickly. Which is an advantage to get the project done on time, but it's also just a lot cleaner of a site and a lot easier for them to build. Materially, it is a darker gray color palette, generally sitting on a lighter base. Within the building space itself, on the interior, there are wood ceilings. There's more of a warmth kind of feeling to it. The exterior just wasn't appropriate to do that, given the rain and everything, that we wanted the building to look good for a very long time. So here's another shot of other elevations and the scale of the building, and you can see how mechanical systems, et cetera, have been centralized on the building to reduce their visual appearance, as well as being screened by screen walls around them. I'll hand it to Oren to talk about the landscape design.
My name is Oren Mizrahi, again with Connect Landscape Architecture, principal at the firm. And today I'm going to talk briefly about the landscape design for the carbon engineering site. And one of the main drivers for the design is to mirror what's going on with the building and to bring that into the landscape. So that we see as an opportunity to, on our end, to research low carbon materials where we can reduce the carbon impact in the landscape. We've also looking at how we might rewild the landscape and improve the native vegetation on site and also the health and wellness of the people that will be working there. Those are three drivers for the design and influence our design solutions. So when it comes to decarbonize the landscape, looking at materials like actually concrete is a really good material for that. And so is for walls, instead of doing block walls, stone, and looking for locally sourced basalt, locally sourced wood. And in terms of, so that's the hardscape material. In terms of softscape materials, trying to get that vertical stratification and diversity of planting materials, not just the ground covers, but trying to get different levels of height for the vegetation to increase the functioning of the planting community. So this is looking at some of the precedent imagery that have driven the design. And I won't go into this too much, but I'll just show this and go to the next slide. So our site itself is, I describe it as 2 or 3 zones. There's the zone that's along the streetscape. That's probably the most impactful for the public realm. And along the streetscape, it's hard to see in this plan, but there's a low boulder wall that helps terrace the landscape and bridge the grade elevation that's at the street and to the building. And that was the boulder wall that I was referencing with natural materials and a heavily screened, almost forested embankment. The second area is around the staff opportunities and the public, well, I guess it's that shared space that Matthew is referring to. And that's around the main entry. There's a number of different opportunities for people to come outside and enjoy being outside. And then the third area is the parking lot itself. And within that parking lot, we have rain gardens, we have permeable pavers. We've also, overall on site, there's close to 90 trees. Majority of those are native, 90% are native. So we really tried to include the local plant materials as much as possible. And so this is showing the 2 planting communities. So the woodland community along the streetscape, and then the parking lot rain gardens. I think there's just a few sections to round out the slide deck. And the important section is the section at the top that's looking at the streetscape and the terracing of the mounds in the forested edge. And so that's how we've treated that condition. The grade change there is significant. And these are just looking through the parking lot. So with that, pass it back over to Matthew to conclude, but that's our presentation for this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully we've answered any questions that you might have already kind of been thinking of, but I'm sure as you reviewed our package, it's obviously more than 16, 19 slides of a package. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Who is chairing the meeting?
I believe I'm going to continue my chairing duties. Yes, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you, panel members. Thank you very much for that presentation. We'll start with questions. So I'm going to start with Michael first, please.
Hi there, can you hear me? Great.
Yes.
Thanks for that presentation. It was very thorough, the package that was provided. My questions are,
Michael, sorry to interrupt, but we heard you best. I think you might have been leaning more forwards, but if you're not very loud, speak up.
is this
Thank you.
better? Yeah, I'm leaning very close to my laptop. My question, I got a few. Can you just describe the approach to the plant species selection? I know you said that the majority are native species. Just curious a little bit more about how you selected those species.
Sure, Michael. We looked at a number of different communities. So within the parking lot, I mentioned there's rain gardens and there's a couple zones within the parking lot. I don't think we included this drawing in the presentation, but it is in the package where we look at the 4 different communities. And so those rain garden plants are plants that are adapted to more wet conditions, and those are primarily native. I think I could say that about most of the plant material. But then we've also got a sunny woodland plant mix in the parking lot. So those are going to be plants around the perimeter of the parking lot that are adapted to more sun and I guess more stressful potentially conditions. And then in the front we have the shade woodland. So that along the streetscape, we've selected plants that fall within that category. I don't want to list names because I'll be talking here for a while about, and you'll know what they mean, but nobody else will.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think maybe you could speak specifically to the elm tree and why that one was selected.
Do you have a concern with the elm tree?
Yeah, maybe we can get into that when we have feedback. But yeah, the Dutch elm disease, it is inevitable that it will be here. So just something to consider.
Okay, so we can consider your comment for sure.
I
think that's the one tree that's not native.
The other question I had was, in your details, you had a vegetated joints flagstone paving. I wasn't sure where that was happening in the plan, if that was an accidental inclusion in the details.
At one point it was within, and I believe it's still within the amenity areas. There's 2 little nodes in front of the building that are kind of breakout spaces. They're rectangular shaped. I believe that the flagstone is located there.
Okay. Are you able to show that on the plan just quickly? I'm just thinking about it for accessibility, and I just would like to know where it is.
Okay, we'll have a look at that.
Yep, they're just pulling it up now.
Yeah, it's in these 2 little breakout spaces.
Yeah. So if I'm just going to try to find a good view to demonstrate.
You have to zoom in on that if you guys know if you can.
I'm not sure.
So Michael.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe the location, but you can see with the mouse there it's not there, it's just to the left.
Okay, over here.
Yeah.
I see those 2 little squares to the west of the entrance. Okay.
Your challenge. Yeah. So it's right here, Michael. So they're not within an area that's where there'll be pedestrian circulation. They're off to the side in these 2 little breakout pods.
Okay. And the last question was, can you point out in this drawing as well where the pedestrian asphalt is?
Sorry, pedestrian asphalt?
Yeah.
I'm not aware that there is that. I think there's vehicular asphalt, but I'm not aware of pedestrian.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was just in the details, so that's clear. If it's not there, that's fine. Okay, I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks so much. Sarah, how about we get you to go next?
Yeah, I just have some questions about washrooms. So I'm looking at the 2nd floor. Are those going to be non-gendered washrooms that have the accessible stall in? Is that the intent there?
Yeah, that's correct. So each individual, I'll call it a stall for lack of a better term, has a toilet, it has a hand sink, and there are solid walls in between each with solid real doors. So not, toilet partitions, if you will. And then there's an accessible washroom as part of that block. And then just across from that, there's an inclusive washroom that has, it's the 3-part inclusive, full inclusive washroom. I think so. Part of, the submission, the numbers haven't changed, but the technology of how we're doing it has improved. I think based on some feedback that the owner has had for us to use we had full phenolic partitions with a shared hand sink, essentially multiple faucets, but they chose to go with individual washrooms.
On the second floor?
Second and third, correct. Yeah, they're the same on both floors.
Oh,
Let me see if
okay.
I can.
I'm not seeing that because I see on the ground level that there's separate washrooms. One with the door that swings out. I assume that's the accessible toilet.
Correct. And so here on the floor plans now, second and third floors, are you able to see the screen? Can you see the Russell's? Okay, we're getting the tech going here. No problem. Okay, and I apologize, I can't zoom in, but there's a block here right north of the elevator bank that has a number of individual washrooms with hand sink and a toilet, solid walls, etc. Within that room itself, there's also an accessible washroom, so 2-part with grab bars, etc. And then just across the way is a universal washroom. And that happens on floor 2 and 3.
Great. And had you considered having the end of trip facility be accessible, like rather than having 2, have one that would?
We did in talking to the owner in terms of volume of people coming with their bicycles and where they're going, like how many employees are in, say, the tech dev space, and they're going to have to get suited up anyway versus office workers, etc. Felt that it's better probably to have 2 washrooms with showers that they can come in. And if somebody has, has an accessible need, just across the way, there is a full accessible shower, a full inclusive accessible shower room, which we've replanned just recently too, which will be coming in to bring it even closer to where the entrance is, so that the progression of people arriving to work is a little bit more streamlined for folks, and it's easier from a janitorial standpoint as well.
And that would be on the main floor, the ground
Correct.
floor.
Also on the ground floor. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's all my questions right now. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll keep it online. Kim?
I really don't have any questions. I think it's quite a good looking project. So thanks for the presentation. But yeah, I don't have much to comment on except to say it looks quite good. Thank you.
Okay. Mio? Did I see Mio on here?
Hi, are you able to hear me? Sorry for joining
Yes.
late. Had some tech issues. Just a question I wanted to ask about the north and south elevations, kind of along the warehouse frontage there. It's shown, the material shown appears to be like a perforated panel with metal panels sort of in this vertical element, and I see that there was some glazing in the first 2 columns, and I just wanted to confirm that was like that was the limit of the extent of the glazing behind the perf metal
Sure.
there
So
in those first 2
so
vertical elements.
Yep, the facade is, as I said before, it's kind of a unitized prefabricated wall system that could be brought in to the project so that it can be enclosed really quickly. The tech dev space is one of high intellectual property concern, right? That they're doing new things in here that other people shouldn't see, and so having windows into that space are a particular concern for the client. The windows that you do see in that area are into an office space that's on the west side of the main central atrium space, to give natural daylight to the people that are working in those spaces. But the tech dev kind of triple height space was of particular concern for privacy purposes.
It's also been redesigned to not be a double panel system anymore.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So sorry, my colleague was also saying, so that it says perforated metal. What it is, there's slots of, they're all kind of corrugated is the wrong word. They're extruded pieces of steel that are bent custom to a profile that we like. And then there's flat panel spaces in between. So the lighter gray, as you see it there, so that over time, as technology changes or new vents or ductwork or louvers need to be added to support the technology, those are the spots that we've engineered kind of blank outs so that those pieces could be removed and new things could be added.
Great, thank you. That's all of my questions.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Andrew.
What kind of commercial vehicular traffic are you expecting at the site? Trucks, trailers, etc.
Do you want to handle that, or you want me to
take that?
Sure. Is that...
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So primarily typical deliveries, right, with small trucks and things like that. We will have some larger deliveries that'll come in intermittently as we do some of our bigger work. And those will come in with full, potentially up to 52-foot trailers.
When you comment on those trucks, is that just for the construction or is that for the life cycle of the building?
That would be for, I would say we're talking, a few times a year for the life cycle of the building as we upgrade any of the installations that are inside the tech dev space itself. Regular deliveries for normal material, though, on smaller vehicles, normally throughout the week.
Do we have any municipal requirements on how larger transportation is managed? Like, is that acceptable to manage that off-site, or has it been considered that those trucks can be managed on-site in this design here?
So the actual length of the driveway, if you have the site plan,
Sure,
is able to get all trucks off Queensway. So that was one of the considerations we had when we looked into it. And as far as turning radiuses and things like that, I know Benny ran the calculations. I don't know offhand.
There's a traffic study report that is part of our package that identifies that on the frequency.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood.
I can add to that because our engineers are looking at it. So they are working with these guys as consultants, and they did the turning analysis. And we actually found that I think they have to cross into the other lane of Queensway for the biggest size truck, but that can be remedied if they make their driveway larger. So that's something that we can discuss with these guys because it kind of just depends on the frequency of those trucks.
Yeah, I see a 105 model's waste and the turning radiuses of a waste removal truck, but not necessarily a 53-foot trailer. So, okay, I'll save that for a comment. Excellent, thank you.
Okay, we'll just keep going around. John.
Thank you. I noticed the bike parking is right at the back of the parcel, at the back of the parking lot. I just wonder, is that a convenient location for folks who might be commuting by bike? Is that close to where staff would be entering the building?
So we have for the Class B, some near the entry, the main entry, and near the bike room itself. And then it's conceived as just overflow. If there's even more bicycles that they're bringing, then that's the most logical place to kind of be putting them, given the site constraints that we have, as well as protection of them, etc. Not rain protection, but just, it's within the site, so it's safer.
Those parking spots are also behind our secure fence, so there actually was some commentary from employees to have some behind the fence.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Beth.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Very clear and concise. I just have one question, and it's actually a little bit more out of curiosity than compliance. I'm just wondering if embodied carbon analysis informed any of the material selection for the actual exterior of the building. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay. We did internally do carbon analysis for a couple of different options that we were doing, especially early stage on the main concerns being concrete, steel, and whether or not mass timber was a viable solution for this project. In terms of the exterior envelope itself, it was a balance between where the product can come from and the speed that we can get it to be done with multiple bidders kind of on it. So we didn't do a carbon analysis per se on the exact profiles and all the metal, knowing that metal's not the best, but it is very durable. And given the chemical processes that they do and that the changes that they need to make over time, that was going to be the easiest for them to deal with long term.
Awesome. Okay. Just had one quick one. The metal panel in the image in W2, is that an actual metal panel product that exists, or is it like a precedent that, yeah, that might be wood? I was gonna say, like, how did you get that look?
Oh, in that one. So
Yeah.
yeah, so what's in the building permit package that's very shortly forthcoming is profiled metal panel. So it's not off the shelf kind of West Form or anything.
Like alchemy?
It's like an alchemy.
Yeah.
It's a custom break that's going to be made for the project. That's going to have variation to both its depth as well as its width of its kind of flutes.
Right. Cool. And I guess I'll throw one in there just out of curiosity. Did you explore any so the perforated metal panel, I think has been used like really successfully in a number of projects, and there is opportunity to kind of look at that pattern and do something that's a bit artistic with it.
Right.
Did you explore that at all?
We did to a degree. So the and the addendum package that's coming after this meeting, because we wanted to accommodate your comments, et cetera. We tried to figure out a way to detail that such that these guys can, over time, add louvers, et cetera. And it just wasn't happening. So it's instead now that perforated is removed. So we have blank out pieces so that, you know, as their technology advances, they can remove panels without having any structural implications to it.
Awesome. Okay. And so that moves us now to our comment section. We'll go in the same order. Michael, you can start us off.
Hi there. Can you hear me again? I've switched to headphones. Good. Okay. Yeah. No, I thought the package was very thorough, and the landscape submission was also very thorough and well thought out. I think my comments are just around the plant selection. So I think I do have some concerns about the white elm and its susceptibility to Dutch elm disease, which is in BC. And so just concerned about the resilience of that tree species selection. The Western hemlock, I saw there was a 3-meter height size is proposed. I know those are very challenging to transplant. I haven't seen that size in the nursery, but they're also shallow rooted and tend to wind throw. So maybe just confirm that's the right species for where you're selecting or where you're placing it. And then the Japanese anemone, there's been reports that it's fairly aggressive and can tend towards invasiveness. So maybe just also consider a different species that might be less invasive there. And then I know that the development to the south of this has some tree species along the cul-de-sac there, and they use a pine tree. And I'm not sure if it's a white pine or a 3 or 2 needle pine, but that could be a consideration for a replacement for the hemlock. It's a bit more drought tolerant too. I would just note that if it is a 5-needle pine, your species list has the red flowering currant, which is the alternate host for the white pine blistering rust. So those two species together wouldn't be favorable. So maybe just confirming what the pine is across the street would be informative for your plant palette as well. But thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for the presentation. I think that this project is going to be fantastic. I think that it's very complementary to the building adjacent. I really don't have any comments other than something that gets missed in the accessible washrooms as often the mirror is forehead height. So just ensure that it's going to be low enough and meets the CSA B651 would be fantastic. But overall, very happy with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim?
Well, I think I would echo those comments. I think the presentation was good and the project looks great. I mean, the the main facade is a little anonymous. The entrance is maybe overpowered by the function of the building, but that is a functional building. So in all, I think it's quite good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mio.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. And I guess my comments would be just some considerations to the landscape design in a way that might encourage use of the outdoor amenities during shoulder seasons, potentially having additional coverage like for shade and rain cover, because it looks like a nice area to sit down in. And just a consideration as well to add some bird-friendly treatments to the large expanses of sort of glass there that, you know, in your beautiful renderings are very reflective and look very sky-like. So something like fritting on the glass might be nice to see here. And yeah, echoing that, yes, the facade is somewhat monolithic, but makes sense for the rationale provided. So yeah, thank you for the presentation.
Thanks, Andrew.
Few comments. I think it's an excellent package. I think that the consideration of the neighboring buildings' architecture will be well received. I also think that it's of considerably higher quality than some of the other concrete tilt-ups in neighboring buildings. So I think that's going to be a welcome product in the neighborhood. My thoughts are, and unfortunately, I don't actually see that I have the traffic study with this plan, but just that the shipping, receiving, and site logistics for, you know, hopefully growing and increased volumes of work in that neighborhood are considered, and that staff works together with the proponent to address the logistics and allow for off-site shipping and receiving in the long term.
Thank you for sharing this project with us. It's really exciting to see. It's fun to imagine it being built on the site and really activating this block of town. And what an awesome demonstration, or, you know, project to have in Squamish from Carbon Engineering here. So we're excited to see it and look forward to seeing it actually getting built.
Yes, thanks again for a very thoughtful presentation. I really appreciate the thought that goes into the story and the ties between the landscape story and the architectural story as well. I think it sits very well together. Just speaking to some of the items requested of the planning department for form and character, I think it fits in really well in the context, and it rises to meet the design quality, which is a bit of a precedent and an aspiration for this area, which is working quite well. And I really appreciate that it sits well with the Hemsworth building next door as well. I like the modest palette, and I really enjoy that the landscape is what's bringing the vibrance to this area. It's very thoughtful. There's a lot of texture in the landscape, a lot of color, and that kind of elevates kind of the muted palette of the building. Very much appreciate texture applied to the muted palette of the building as well. I think it gives it a lot of dynamism. And the last item I just wanted to say that I support is there was a comment on articulation, and I think sort of the restrained articulation makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate that there's no unnecessary detail.
Awesome.
That's
yeah.
everything.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'll echo all comments basically said today. I also agree on the articulation piece, especially because you're looking at offsite fabricated technologies, and when you do that with articulation, it doesn't really seem to work. And so definitely encourage the district to perhaps review some of those bylaws and make those changes that allows us to hit those goals that are being presented. So yeah, I won't go on, but wonderful to see a project of this quality come to this horseshoe. So with that, I will ask the panel members if they feel particularly strongly about one of the recommendations. And as a reminder, the recommendations are A, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and does not need to see that project returned for further review. Asia, before I continue, is this exempt from this whole process as far as that return? Is it a priority project or? Okay. B, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and would like the applicant to work with staff to resolve the following recommendations, and we'll list those recommendations. C, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and would like the applicant to resolve the following, and we provide those. Or D, that we do not support the project. So, John.
I would move A.
Ooh, bold move. Do I have a seconder on that? Okay, we got one in the room here. All those in favor of that recommendation?
Yes.
All right. Look at that. It's a rare occurrence that we get an A, so gold star.
Great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Do we need a second to change over, or can we just roll right through, Phil? Okay, we're gonna take we're gonna take more than 1 minute. We'll take 3 minutes, and we'll be back here at 2:46. almost ready to go. Yes. Okay. We're back. Okay, next item up 40330 Tantalus Road. And planner Philip Gibbins.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm just going to do a very quick presentation. So we're looking at, 40330 Tantalus Road. So just for context, it's on the southern end of on the one-way section of Tantalus Road, which is a little commercial cluster at the rear of the independent supermarket. So it's a regular lot, frontage on Tantalus, and it's got a laneway to the south and the east. So yeah, it's in the newly minted Garibaldi Estates neighborhood plan area. It's zoned C1 commercial, and is subject to development permit areas 3 and 11. So we've got a couple of variances here. Front setback of 2 meters at the ground and 0 at the second level. Interior side setback on the north from 1.52 to 0. Both of those are supported by new policy in the estate's neighborhood plan. And then we've got a variances lot coverage 50% to 62%, and a parking variance from 21 stalls to 14, and also some design criteria for location close to lot lines. And then I had an error. There's no variance for the open space, so could ignore that one. And then for the design guidelines, generally supportive, but we're looking for some feedback, color materials, accessibility, feedback on the bedrooms without windows, and then also some feedback on the roof overhang of the front, the interface, like proximity to street trees. So some items to look at. And then, yeah, finally seeking feedback on the guidelines and the variances, and then we've got the recommendations, which Carlos will refresh you on, I'm sure, at the end. That's it. I've read it once. That's it. Yeah, okay. So I'll hand over to Jan.
Thank you. Do I push to the next slide?
Yeah, so you should be, once each share.
Oh, okay. Oops. Good.
Just scroll with the arrow.
Should we use the left click or the arrows?
Left click or the arrows. So.
Left click. Oh. Okay, gotcha. All right. So we get to go here. My name's Jane Song. I'm from AKA Architecture and Design here in Squamish. I'm here to present what we're calling the Tantalus for now. It's not its official name, but for now we're calling it the Tantalus. This is a little project. It's a new 2-story mixed-use building located on Tantalus Road, which Philip already showed us. It replaces a former 2-story building that was destroyed by fire in 2022. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to match what was there previously, which included commercial spaces at the ground floor and rental apartments on the second floor. We're going to talk about the design in a little more detail later on, but overall the idea was to use simple geometries to create a cohesive appearance to the second floor residential volume and to provide a little more warmth, character, and a more human scale experience at the ground floor commercial areas. Talk about that more. I think Philip already talked about the neighborhood a little bit, but this is generally, I think most people are familiar with this. It's so close to a lot of great amenities like some restaurants, grocery store, hotel, gas station. A little more information about the existing context. So a lot of the buildings that are on this street have been here for quite a while. So this will be the first new building in a little while. So one of the challenges that we faced there was to do with this streetscape. So this is still something that we're working on with the district of Squamish, but as part of the whole new neighborhood plan, there is a new streetscape design that we're still resolving with the district of Squamish. So if you guys have been on that street, I think you know that the existing sidewalks are quite narrow. So we're working on improving that and matching some of the other standards around town. As part of that, this is why we have the 2-meter front yard setback, is to give it the street right of way a little more room to create that enhanced public realm. The other thing we've done here on this site plan, Philip already mentioned, there is on this site a rear laneway. So this is where the rest of the adjacent businesses store their garbage materials, and that's where the pickup is. And this lane continues along the south lane onto Tantalus Road. So we have used that also as a transition point. So where the building faces the south laneway on the south side, we've tried to create a little bit more of a public corner. And then all the services are kind of consolidated on the back side of the building, or the east side. This might be a good time just to talk about our parking logic, because our goal here on this project was to try to create a balance between the quality of the commercial space. Might be actually better on the next slide. So we wanted to create properly sized commercial units while also balancing the need for parking. So you can kind of see the trade-off here. The more parking we provide, the smaller the CRU spaces would become. So here we've proposed this balance of creating 14 parking stalls on site. 6 of those would be allocated for commercial use, and that does meet the parking calculation for commercial space. The other thing we suggested is 1 parking unit per each residential unit above. So there's 8 rental units upstairs, and so 8 spaces. Sorry. And our logic there is just that we would be following the downtown parking standard for parking spaces. The other thing I should mention is when I looked at the unit plans, we had calculated 21 parking spaces as required, but I think that there's an argument for actually 18 just because of the units. The 1-bedroom is actually a studio, and the 2-bedroom is actually a 1-bedroom plus den. So we could look at recalculating those numbers. Aside from that, one thing the staff report notes is that the biking spaces are not covered. I just wanted to show you where those spaces are located right now. It's out here in the hardscaped boulevard along Tantalus Road. There are other locations that we could consider that would make the spaces covered, but each has their own pros and cons. So we could put one in front of each CRU, We could also occupy this space in the parking area. This is actually undercover. But then we do lose an opportunity for landscaping back there. So interested to hear any thoughts on that. I'll just move on to, oh, sorry, I'll just point out it's a very straightforward plan. You know, we have our commercial spaces onto Tantalus, and we do have all of our service spaces along the parking lot. And then our residential entry and exits, we have our main lobby on the north side and our exit stairwell on the south. This is our second floor plan. So I did address some of Philip's comments or staff comments about the interior windows, so lack of windows. So in our interior units, these are the ones where they should probably be referred to as one bedroom plus den or flex. I did include, we added interior windows into each of those flex spaces. We also double checked and added windows to all the exterior units so that where possible, we've added more windows to the end units. So those 2 units on the north side are studios. There was a note in the staff report that the units are not accessible. Just thought I would talk a little bit about the building code in this case. Does not require accessibility because it's a 2-story residential building. And it's considered that providing an elevator would be cost prohibitive in a project of this scale. So anything larger than this would require an elevator, but because it's 2-story, it's exempt from that requirement. And by omitting an elevator for this project, the building design remains more efficient, which may help keep rental costs lower. At least that's the goal. This is our roof plan. It looks a little boring, but you just wanted to point out this is the ridge line here. So the high point of the gable is here, just to keep the height and emphasis closer to Tantalus, which is the more public side of the building. And we just thought it created a more interesting appearance from the south elevation, which will also be quite visible. The staff report notes that the color does not meet the energy efficiency requirements. We could actually lighten the color of that roof material, but you'll see later on in the 3D renderings, the idea was to keep that volume one comprehensive massing, one comprehensive whole. So it's the same material from the roof that wraps onto the wall. At least that's the concept there. This is a sheet of just our design rationale, which is to point out a few of the features. This design really focuses on simplicity and creating a sculptural form that is both durable and low maintenance. Those are very important qualities to the building owners. Some of the features include, like I mentioned already, this asymmetrical roof line that puts a heightened focus onto Tantalus. And each unit features a recessed balcony integrated into the second floor massing. So they provide shelter and privacy without disrupting the continuity of this upper floor volume. We've also included these red perforated guardrails that are continuous over the facade. Gives the building a little more personality and character while also reinforcing the horizontality of the building. The second floor volume also acts as the weather protection to the sidewalk below. And this was another way we simplified the overall appearance of the building, since we wanted to avoid adding another design element such as an awning or a canopy. Okay. So this is the facade facing Tantalus Road. So you can see a little more the commercial storefronts. And again, the building is defined by three main material choices. And I think the materials box has already gone around, but it's basically the standing seam metal cladding, which we used as the roof and the exterior wall cladding. We're using wood or a combination of different textures of wood at the commercial storefronts. And then again, the red perforated metal guardrails, which really break up the facade a bit. Just continuing, this is the facade facing the parking lot. So again, the same materials. However, back here we painted, or we're proposing painted fiber cement panel in this boxcar color just to lighten it up a little bit. This is the side that's facing the existing building, which is Pepe and Gringo's. So most of this will probably be blocked by the adjacent structure, but shows up better in the rendering later on. And this is the facade facing the south laneway. So this one will be a little more visible because that laneway is going to stay quite open. So here what we did is you can see where it transitions from kind of more like the public facade and then moves into this kind of more private or service area. This is just a little bit more detail about the storefront design. You know, we just really wanted to bring the scale of that experience closer to the sidewalk level. So, you know, we suggested a lot of signage and textures, materials that are warmer, and we really played around with the balance of glass versus solid wall. And then we also included this little wall-mounted light just to create a little focus on potentially some signage in that location, as well as the typical commercial signage band. So you got that. The staff report also requested a lighting plan, so we did include this in this package. It just basically shows, again, it's very simple. There's a picture of this is a dark sky certified wall-mounted light that we'd like to use. In the parking lot, we're providing general illumination through these LED strip lights. And again, at some of these residential lobbies, we have just suggested some LED pot lights to keep it hidden and simple. And now we're already back at the elevations. So again, this is that view we've already looked at. So probably the most public corner of the project where we focused on, you know, this, even though it's a small commercial unit, it does wrap the corner. And it's trying to be a little bit inviting without being too much. This is the side facing or closest to Pepe and Gringo. So you can see we did try to scale down the building. So we have a different roof design over the entry lobby for the residents. And I think it just creates a nice intimate scale for that building feature. And then this is the kind of the service area of the building. So facing the back laneway and transitioning towards Tantalus. Yeah, so that's all I had for my presentation. I don't know if, can I switch to Tom's? Oh, really? Okay.
Which one?
Sorry, the landscape one.
Good afternoon, thank you. As Jane alluded, the streetscape is under future consideration, but what you're seeing on this plan is that future streetscape that meets the soil requirements, the spacing, the paving, etc. You've seen two types of trees there. The larger one shown is the Acer rubrum red rocket, which is a very columnar species, and the other is a Amalanche serviceberry Princess Diana, smaller one, and that's the small tree that's in the back parking lot. The lower level planting is a mix of grasses and perennials and lavender, so it's a colorful mix, and it also has some sarcoco, so there's some evergreen elements to it, but it's a very varied type of landscape. It's not a uniform single species blend. So you could arguably say some of it's native, most of it's native-like. It's very similar if you think about it. It's the planting down at we undertook down at Sirocco. It's very lush, colorful. It's hardy to the street. And I think that wraps it up. And we've tried, as Jane noted, in the back parking lot, to have elements of landscape that, as much as we could for the site, to work out. Part of it's underground, under roof. It'll all be irrigated. Thanks.
I think that's the end of the presentation.
Yep, that's the end of my presentation. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. We'll go in reverse order this time. I'll still put myself last, but I'm going to jump in and ask one question just because it may frame some of the questions. Jane, this is the site that did burn down previously.
Correct.
Are there constraints on this site due to that event that should be considered as part of this review, or should we treat this as if it's any other building site?
That's a good question. I don't know from the owner side if they have constraints from their, but I do know that project scale wise, this is what meets their business plan, what meets their project goals. You know, there was no appetite to exceed what they had previously. They're very comfortable with that size, scale, and really what they just want to do is replace what they had.
Okay. And then Beth, I'll let you start that off.
I think it's more of a comment, so no questions. Yeah, thanks.
Nice.
I just have one question, and so maybe I missed this in the package, but is there an FAR for the project?
Yes, there is. Sorry, the stats page somehow didn't make it into the presentation. It is maxing out the FAR that is permitted, and I think that it's 0.75. Yeah, 0.75 is what's permitted.
Thank you.
By current zoning.
That's it.
Is a limitation on parking going to restrict any type of CRU use? And have you contemplated that in the design?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just didn't hear the question.
Is the limitation on parking going to limit any type of CRU use?
Oh,
types of occupants?
That hasn't been factored in. Basically, what we did to generate 6 parking spaces is just strictly using the DOS requirement for the amount of commercial space, and it generates this number of parking spaces.
This is maybe more directed at planning. How does the zoning bylaw relate to the BC requirements for accessibility and 2-story dwelling units or buildings?
There's no specific requirements in the zoning. There's no variances accessibility wise. So that'd be falling back on BC requirements, but we do have some accessibility related guidelines in the development permit area 3.
Okay, we'll go online. Mio?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. A few questions from me. One of them is, I was curious about the interior bike parking, and I see that there's a end of ride area there as well, and I just wanted to confirm who is using these bike interior bike parking areas. Is it serving the CRU or residential, or how is this intended in terms of the split?
So this bike parking room is sized according to the District of Squamish requirements for bike stall spaces and also the number of spaces. It's mostly meant for residential use. So none of the units have spaces within their units. Everything will be located here. I think we've shown like each CRU is required one bike stall. We've shown their bike space within their unit. However, for the small corner unit, I think we've put their commercial space into the bike room. But it's mostly generally meant for residential use.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm guessing that the end of ride facilities is intended more so for the employees of the CRU, or is that?
That's a good question. The end of trip facility we have provided again to meet the District of Squamish requirements for end of trip. I think it is actually meant for commercial use. So the CRU occupants would have access to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thank you. And so I guess maybe this is more to staff, but so just to follow up, I guess this to understand what ADP can comment on around the accessibility and adaptability. So what I'm understanding is that this is compliant with bylaws, but not necessarily with the guidelines. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So we have some development permit area 3 guidelines which speak to accessibility. So they were highlighted in that table at the back of the report.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I was just curious about how you know, if where that line was, and if we were commenting on something that would be not accepted in another reason, for another reason. Okay, and then I see that we were asked to comment on the street tree in potential conflict to the overhang. Is that correct in the slideshow? And if so, wondering what scale or what size the street tree shown in the drawing packages drafted at.
That's a red maple. I think it's requested by the district. A red maple will grow big and fat, some of them, but this is the red rocket maple. I'm just reading, is a remarkable maple tree that stands out with unique features, columnar form, preferred choice for colder regions due to its cold hardiness, mature height of 30 to 40 feet with a spread of 8 to 15 feet. It's perfectly in smaller landscapes, urban areas, or narrow spaces. So I would suggest it's suitable for this specific site.
Is it drafted at its mature canopy size currently, as shown
Yeah,
on the
8 to
plan?
15 feet.
So it's 8.
Is its mature. So looking at the plans here, I think it fits. I mean, you can argue, and arguably over time it may become too large, and then perhaps a smaller species is more suitable. The alternate here we have is the Avalanche Princess Diana serviceberry tree, which peaks out at about 6 or 7 meters as opposed to 30, 40 feet, which is, much higher, fatter tree. So, or 4-meter tree for the Amalanche species. So, what you want to avoid is hitting the power lines, any kind of power lines.
Okay, so then they are drafted at approximately that 8 to 15
the
foot
way it's
spread
shown in
on
plan
drawing.
might be-
Yeah.
I probably showed it about, that sidewalk is 2 meters, so I'm probably showing it at about 3 or 4 meter width. So, yeah, no, I think that's not too far off the way
Okay,
it's
great.
shown.
Thank you.
But
That's
sometimes you don't want to show trees at their full height because you want to lead up to unrealistic expectations. So it's shown at a reasonable
yeah.
size.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, just to be able to see at a glance without having to throw it into like Blue Beam to measure the size of the tree, just because we were asked to
Yeah.
comment on that. So,
No, I
and-
get that.
yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. That's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Can you tell me, does each of the residential units, do they get a parking space? I'm wondering what the division is for the parking.
Yes, so it is 1-to-1. So every residential unit would have one parking stall.
And you've got 2 then for commercial?
We would
Not
have
building.
6.
6? Oh, I thought there were
6.
just 10 spaces here.
No, there is a total of 14
Oh,
stalls
okay.
on site. Yeah.
Okay, I read it wrong. All right, that's great. Okay, it looks like there's some protection over the front entrance. Do you have any protection over the back entrance for the residential? Because there's
Do you mean off of the parking lot? Do you mean from
What's
the
that?
parking lot? Sorry,
Yeah,
do you
from the
mean
parking
from the
lot.
parking? Yeah, so if you can see where, I guess, do you see where the line of columns are in the parking lot?
Yeah, yeah.
There's actually building overhang to that point.
Oh, that's all covered. Okay.
Yeah, that is
Right.
all covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And maybe it's just not in the renderings or they're small. Is there going to be some signage on the main entrance on the street for the residential? Will there be something there? It doesn't look like it. But
Yeah, we are
probably.
considering, that's a good question. I mean, we will need to have the building address there, so there will be a number. I think it would be easy to include some signage there as well.
Some signage and how to get in touch with people inside. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at it's called View West, that rendering, we do have an enter phone and
Oh, right. I see that.
yeah, an enter phone and the Squamish, the fire lockbox or something that are on that corner. And then somewhere we would need to have the building address.
Right. Okay.
As well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned it's a rental project. Is that right?
It is
whole
intended to
project
be a
is
rental.
Okay.
Rental project.
Okay. And my other question is a bit leading to a comment, but did you consider any other lighter colors for your siding?
We
Or
did
would you?
consider many colors actually, and real colors would have been fun to do on this one. However, this is a building owner choice, so we did present many color options that we were quite, we thought were fun. But this is something that the owner really had a strong preference for this color choice. All to do with, but prior to this, they had operated their previous previous building for, I think, decades. So they were really drawn to having something dark that would not show wear and tear as easily. So that was their, yeah.
Great, thank you. That's my question.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I just have some questions about the end of trip facility. Can you tell me what the shower base is? Are you considering it to be an accessible shower base, or is it going to be a bathtub?
Yes. No, it's you know, we did, if you see the outlines around those fixtures, we did design it to meet accessibility requirements. So it would be, you know, the shower, the no curb shower, its size, everything there is sized to allow that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's all my questions. I mean, just going back to the district is that there does need to be some new streetscape guidelines there, because there is accessible parking on the other side of the street, just down across from the veterinary clinic, but the sidewalk is so narrow that I have to park my van about 3 feet away from the curb so that I don't end up in the garden. So there needs to be some consideration there, because unfortunately with the covered parking, my large van would not fit underneath that to park at that location. So that's something the district should very much consider when they're looking to review that streetscape there. Okay, I'll wait for my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Michael?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I had a question if there were any underground utilities locations that were referenced in relation to the tree planting beds.
Oh, you're talking about, sorry, the infrastructure?
Yeah, like sanitary, storm, water. Are those all in the middle of the street, or was it just checked that there weren't any conflicts with where the proposed trees and planting beds are on the sidewalk?
That is a good question. I know that the civil engineer that we're working with on this project was recently involved in some other work on this street, and he did not flag any issues to me so far. But again, the whole civil conversation, because the streetscape is being redone, there's a lot of coordination and discussion yet to be had.
Okay. And then I was curious why the sidewalk paving, it just sort of ended short of the side entrance to the building. And I'm just curious why it ended there.
Yeah, that is true. There is a logic to continuing it in front of the exit stair, but you know, we kind of are considering that as a secondary kind of exit stair from the residential units above. So it's not really meant to stand out as a feature, if that makes sense. So in this case, we just kind of grouped it in with the same treatment as the garbage room door and the other service areas behind the building. But again, it is something that we also went back and forth on where to terminate that.
Was there any sort of consideration for differentiating the pavement through the more residential backside along that sidewalk, and then, you know, the pavement of the parking area versus the laneways?
Sure. Are you talking about like a color treatment? Like a painted
just
treatment
something that sort of delineates a separate use, like a pedestrian use versus the vehicle use, and the
certainly
parking area
some
from
other,
the drive lane.
Yeah, you know, we haven't introduced that design element or feature into this project, but I know what you're kind of saying. We have included something like that on other projects where you can differentiate the kind of like the vehicular free zones with like a painted pattern or something like that. I think for this project, because we've kept such a mute look to the building, we hadn't considered anything like that yet.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, was it ever contemplated in the parking area where there's the two Amlachier trees to instead of have one larger tree to provide more volume and shade?
No, I would personally rather have it broken up into 2 or 3 trees rather than an overly large tree to try to cast that much shade. I think an overly large tree might affect the 1 or 2 parking lots. I think these will have more shade over time, broken up, rather than one large tree. And I think we want to avoid having overly large trees in a parking area, just because of what roots do over time to the asphalt. And you're right near PMT as well. We want to avoid that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I don't have any additional questions to add to what was asked, so we'll just go right into comments. Beth?
Thanks very much for the presentation. It's a real pleasure to have 2 very thoughtful presentations at ADP today. And it's nice to see a project like this that is kind of a little bit of a different rental project, a little bit more intimate. It's nice to see some diversity in the rental choices in Squamish, and I know it's much needed. And nice to see that it's sort of responding to what was there and replacing something that was there previously that was lost. My only comment is about what was there previously and lost, and that's just with thought and consideration given to what happened on the site. The idea of having bedrooms without windows doesn't feel right. So I know the code allows for it as long as it's sprinklered, and I just wanted to confirm, I guess it's a bit of a question too, that the intent is the intent to reclassify it as a 1-bedroom plus den, or are we still sticking with them as 2-bedroom units?
I don't see the argument for trying to keep that label as 2-bedroom. I think it's really what we were trying to do is create a certain number of units and a certain size. So really those rooms are included to show that there is a flexibility of use. It is big enough that you could consider different functions for that second room.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. It's nice to see something proposed for this site. I think that mixed use building, particularly a mixed use rental building, is so fantastic for this location. I think my one comment is really more for the district of Squamish. It's nice to see that they finally gotten the Garibaldi Estates plan through. It's really unfortunate that they haven't been able to bring the zoning in along with it, because that restricts how easy it would be to build something on the site that aligns with the vision of the plan. I think in this location it would be mixed use residential B, which allows up to 1.6 FSR and 4 stories. So, you know, it's a missed opportunity, I guess. That's too bad, but it's a really lovely building. It's fun. It's a great to have that mixed use, and really nice to have a residential rental project there.
I think it'd be nice to see another building replaced in this location. I'm sure that the proponent is trying to simply maximize their loss and what they'll receive with their loss. My comments are around the 2 bedrooms, the second bedroom not having a window. I know that BCBC does allow for that. I think labeled as a second bedroom is going to push for sprinklering that room, as opposed to the other likely case that they'll be labeled as a 1-bed plus den and subsequently still used as a 2-bedroom. So I think that actually improves the life safety of the site and of the units. And so I think that then allowing for the parking variance associated with those units is much more favorable Otherwise, they'll just be reclassified and they won't see that life safety improvement. I don't think that the covered bike spaces are of particular concern for the ones that were outside of the building. I think those are all my comments for this file. It's a great file.
Thank you. Going online, Mio.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, just echoing everybody's sort of appreciation for the presentation, and a few comments from me. I guess I'm a little curious, and I might have asked this as a question, but I'll revisit it as a comment. So I'm a little bit concerned about the planting under the building overhang at the rear, just thinking that it might be challenging to establish and maintain. So I think there is an opportunity to add a little bit of covered bike parking in that area, as I believe one of the presenters had flagged earlier. I see that it's irrigated, but it might not get a lot of sunlight, the landscape planting under the overhang there. And I think there's also an opportunity to look at bike storage in general, especially indoor covered bike parking there, just seeing that it's adjacent to university and, that it's a place where people love cycling, Squamish, that there might be a lot of demand there, but realize that there's a lot of constraints as well that have to be balanced with that. So just a consideration. And then I think I saw one of the drawings showing a service berry as a street tree. I don't know if that was a coordination thing or if all of the street trees were proposed as acers, and assuming that there wouldn't be a conflict between the mature size of the trees and the canopy at the front of the building. Then if indeed a service berry is proposed for that area, I would just encourage looking at a larger caliper size as well as a standard form for that. And those are all my comments. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Kim?
I'll just echo, it's a great presentation and a good looking building. I like the simplicity of the form. And the simplicity of the layout, I think, is good too. My biggest issue is with the colors, because we are in a warming climate and all these black buildings don't really help for keeping buildings cool. And I think you can have durable materials and just lighten it up. But I do like the bites out of the building with the wood siding. And so generally speaking, I think it's a great building. I would suggest a lighter color, but as you've explained, it's an owner's choice. So I'm not sure where you're going to go with that. And yeah, that's mainly my comment. The dens and bedrooms, it's kind of how you market them, but I think the comment that they could be used as a bedroom is correct. So maybe keeping that in mind in how the building is sprinklered or not is a good comment as well. But apart from that, I think the building is quite good. I like the way the second floor sits out and gives protection around the building. I think that's quite good. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yes, thanks for the presentation. I think the building is a great improvement over what was there previously. And yeah, the simplicity of the design is appealing. I mean, I recognize that the black is going to heat up, but I also think that it looks pretty good. My only comments really are about the end of trip facility, just to make sure that you're following B651, so that you're going to have the shower controls on the inside wall, so that if there is a seat added, that it would be usable. And additionally, I would just encourage you, though they're not adaptable, is just to put some backing in the long walls of the units upstairs for the potential addition of grab bars in the future. Slips in the bathroom are, they're a dangerous spot, and these are going to be rental units used by a whole host of people. So having that backing would just allow the safe installation of those bars without having to rip any tiles out or anchor them into nothing. So my comments. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Sarah. Michael?
Hi. Yeah, thanks for the presentation and the thoughtful responses to our questions. I think, yeah, I'd just like to flag that the underground utilities in the area are referenced in the design drawings to make sure there's no conflicts with the tree plantings on the street. I think that the proposed tree species are, I don't have any concerns with them. I think if there is a concern with the red rocket trees being too close to the building with its setback, that you could look at the Armstrong gold maple, which is even a bit narrower, but very similar size. I think I do have the same concern about the landscape under the covered area. I find that when the irrigation gets turned off in the winter, regardless if the plants are dormant or not, they tend to really struggle. And then I think some consideration into some treatments to the paving through the parking area to sort of differentiate the uses between like pedestrian, vehicle, and the laneway drive aisles. I think that's all I've got.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, so I guess I'll just echo what a lot of people have said. Seeing these both packages that we saw today before coming here was made me quite happy. Made me think that the level of quality being built and being proposed in Squamish is just increasing, which is great to see. And I think this is a very handsome building as it's designed. Totally take the comment on climate and resilience, but also think that the black cladding is very in keeping with, I think, some buildings that are adjacent on that block behind Tantalus, and I think it'll look really well, and the pops of color are well received. I think it's really respectful to have that change in the gable and the roof line adjacent to the patio, where you had the potential to block sun, but made that change. I think that's being a good neighbor. And yeah, I think perfect is the enemy of good when it comes to development projects. And so I think this project isn't perfect, but it fills a need, and it fills a need in the rental spectrum, and elevators are expensive. And so I think it's supportable there with regards to its design. And it's just like one of many different solutions we need in Squamish, and it doesn't check all the boxes, but it fits with the ones we need. And yeah, I think it's just there's no doubt in my mind this building will be sprinklered entirely.
It will be.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's like I think the building will be sprinklered, and a junior one, as I think the current industry calls it, is a very standard, and it's just kind of a reality of our building form and trying to do things efficiently here. So I support the project, and with that, there are no more comments. I don't think I need to read out the options again, but is there a recommendation? Jesse's giving me a no. Good. Is there a recommendation that someone would like to move with regards to this project? Anyone feel strongly about one recommendation over the other?
I would recommend A again.
Okay, a bold move. Is there a seconder to that? Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Double A. I don't think this has ever happened before. It is the first time? First time confirmed. Wow. All right. Either we're getting soft or those are two great projects. Okay. Excellent. Okay. And I need to open back up my motion to terminate. Chabin? Perfect. All right. We are terminated. Have a great month, everyone.
Bye, everyone.